Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Freeze coming at you with the weekly live stream. And today we're going to talk about really two things. Um, the first is in playtest we got a little bit of an update with the Requiem Blaster. So I'll talk to you about that. I made like a little graphic for it to kind of show everybody the differences as we go through all the different levels. As it looks like now, of there is a total of 20 levels to it, and each of those, oh, not each level, but each they're going to have different ranges to do different stuff. So we'll talk about that. And there is a new concept that's floating around regarding wars. So um, right now, it's just a thought. It's something that the team is thinking about. But I did want to get your opinions on it. Maybe it'll be something I can share with the Yodo team. Uh, so we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And all in all, pretty chill stream. Not a whole lot going on. And yeah, we'll take a look at both of those things. I made graphics for that too to kind of simplify. So, all right, before we talk about any of that, let's look at this week's newsletter. All right. So this week we got the event called Fuel Up. It's week 2 of the saga. And so it's going to be another individual totalizer. This one is going to have 50 prestiges, 50k individual XP event. And so they're doing something a little bit different this time. They're going to be doing Mega XP. And with the Mega XP, what that is they're going to give you 25% more XP than we get in the super events. It says during this event, offensive combiners will also deal 40% more damage and take 20% less damage in event battle zones. Now, I know one of the concerns that I heard over the course of the week was that one of the concerns was that we, could have did this in Mayhem. And so when I look at it, from a Mayhem standpoint, I just switched audio. So let me know if you guys can still hear. But you know, the part that makes me want it to be Mayhem is when I go look at the offensive combiners dealing more damage. For me, that's really the selling point. Just because if they're doing more damage and you have to destroy more stuff, then that would be cool. But at the end of the day, you really can't look down on the you can't really look down on the um, XP that we're getting. All right, yeah, I'll just switch it back to how it was then because I got two indications up here, and it actually showed on my end that it was quieter on the other side, but I'll just use that one. All right, but they also wanted to put a note up there that previous event specs posted on Discord included gold power cores. However, I think it was today they decided to add in. Yeah, it was today, earlier today, they decided to add 50k of Megatronus Prime Spark. But other than that, all in all, it's a decent event. They're going to add 250 fuel cells as part of the rewards. It's not going into the inventory. Now, that's one thing I actually wish it did do was go into the inventory so I could use it when I wanted it. So you'll get some additional battles this weekend. And the reason, at first, I was like, I really didn't care. But then a couple of my buddies of mine pointed it out. They was like, well, it's getting spread out throughout the event. So it's just like, oh, well, here's one extra battle. Here you go. Um, it's a little bit sporadic, but I don't know. But you can't complain about it too much. 250, you get 50 times shard crystals, 50k your premium character shards, 50k of your Megatronus Prime spark, a million regular spark, well, a million of each spark, regular, combat, and combiner. And well, I'll go through this first. So each of your shard crystals will either have 155 star shards, 304 star shards, or 500 of your 3-star shards. So you got 33%, 33-point repeating 3 to be exact, odds of getting either of those items. Now, I'll tell you what, anytime you got lots of combat spark, like a million like that, even though I'm not going to use it right now because I need to get more binary bonds, anytime you get additional spark like that, I'm gonna be combat spark. That is, I'm gonna be interested. You know, the extra Megatronus Prime spark is cool. I'm still only gonna get up to level 5. After mine's is in the lab right now. Well, mine's is in the lab right now, 4 or 5. But you know, either way, I think we'll be good there. So that's your prize charts. And what I was going to get back to is a lot of people were talking about, especially at when I was looking at Waza's stream before this, and one of the things that was coming up was when they made this event, they wanted to try to do something to kind of make up for last week's event, obviously with Megatronus Prime getting stuck in the, getting stuck during the upgrades and getting stuck in dispatch mode. They wanted to do something a little bit to kind of help out, but it kind of turns into one of those things where it's like, I know a lot of times when we're talking about something like that happening in the game, we kind of default to saying, "Well, yeah, we need to get something. We need compensation." And I'm kind of torn because for me, when I start asking for compensation, it's because I actually lost something. So, like for example, there's been times where I'll, when the event doesn't work right to start, and I start using ore, and then it burns out, and then, you know, I use some fuel cells, and the fuel cells are lost, something like that. Like, yeah, if I lost something like that, I want my stuff back, 100%. But um, for this, for something like this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away from the pain of it. Like, it is extremely annoying to not be able to level this guy up because he's stuck. I couldn't even, I completed, about, what was it? Like 60% of the event or something like that, and I couldn't even put him the um, into the lab until I think it was Tuesday. But you know, um, I'm all that to say I'm not mad at the event. Uh, I'm still looking at it with the same lens that I look at every week. I look at it from the lens of, hey, it's another Friday through Sunday. It's events every week, and they're starting to become a little bit larger. I know we get a little bit irritated um, when it's not a mayhem event, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the same thing that I've been saying. We got to be judicious about how we proceed with the events. For me, I don't necessarily mind pushing a little bit. Now, I probably won't spend on this one, but I'll probably try to go get as much combat spark as I can at least. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's NFL is on now, so basically my event weekends on during football season or during American football season are 2 days long. So So there's your typical battle zones. And then once again, just kind of just acknowledging issues and looking ahead. I mean, they acknowledge the issues and stuff, and that's cool. I mean, they did, as a team, start asking questions in different chats about the how we felt about the Megatronus Prime. But two things, and some people did bring this up when the question came up, and I looked at it when it was in Unicron, and I also looked at it in a chat that I'm in with the developers, and um, honestly, two things. And I said this last week, and I said this last week as well, but it's hard to cast judgment on something that you don't have level, and I'm gonna stand on that. Um, you know, a lot of us got this thing. The ones of us who could get them out of the lab, you know, they did all this stuff through maybe level 50. Some people maybe level 60, and at 60 he probably start to be better. And you know, he may or may not wind up being good down the stretch. We'll talk about a little bit of that later on. But when we're sitting around the level 30, level 40, and we're talking about he's dying and stuff like that, like I think that's a little bit unfair of an assessment. So a couple of people just told him, it's like, look, don't even ask us until we can actually use them. A lot of people got them stuck in the and upgrade and stuff like that. The other part of that is that we hadn't leveled them up. So, you know, um, good on them for acknowledging, you know, some of the failures that took place. Um, I don't even know if we're really in a position to discuss, you know, making this thing better without having any levels behind it. So I still feel that way. All right, so they said they teamed up with the Transformer store with Battersea Power Station, and they said they got three fantastic comics to give away. So they gave you links to that. So if you don't subscribe to the newsletter, honestly, man, I'm starting to see more people that never even read the newsletter, man, because they start asking stuff that was explicitly put into the newsletter, but you know, we'll see. All right, leadership council applications are out for the or leader council, excuse me. And so for those of you, I probably need to apply for that since I'm an officer with Horde again. So we'll but yeah, I've been in there before, like when they first made it. It's a good place just to be able to talk to the developers and stuff. So if you're a leader of an alliance, go ahead and click that link in the newsletter and try to go. If you're not already a part, go be a part. All right, Fuel Up is the code for this weekend. 10% off of one item, whichever item is your most expensive item in the store. The code expires on the 9th, so like a week from now at 10 o'clock UTC. And they're also going to have Born Leader crystals, so and you can actually see the drops there. Not going to read all those out. Then they got a refuel and roll out bundle that's coming in there. That's going to have fuel cell, Cybercoin, Spark, G Metal XP, and a Megatronus Spark bundle. So yeah, that one might be. I had to go see. I didn't look at the store before I joined the stream, but I'll have to check that out and see if it's gonna have uh, any Megatronus Spark that I buy. I doubt it. I probably just do it with the events. But yeah, still no saga schedule. You know, that's I don't know at this point. That's kind of become whatever to me. And then make sure you check out all your content creators. I saw a lot of y'all already watching Sunstreak Owaza, so definitely check him out. You know, as well as myself, Soldier, and CF, who's joined us in the chat. Good friends of mine, all of those guys, and all the unofficial creators as well. Please feel free to share links if you got them so people can watch your content. You know, don't go watch that shit right now. Watch it after I'm done, but go watch it. And that is the news for this week because, you know, they ain't doing team stream. So that's the news for this week. Let's go check on the chat, see what we got going on in there. Definitely seems active today. All right, so we got, speaking of content creators, we got Twilight Tier, one of my good friends and members, first one in the chat. Thanks for joining, buddy. Also, speaking of content creators, we got CF in the chat. Thanks for joining, CF. Shockbomb28 is with us again. Thanks for joining, homie. As well as the homie RG. Thank you for joining us again, RG. All right, we got Tarantulas20, aka Terra, one of my good friends and moderators. Thanks for joining, buddy. We got the homie Trax, one of my good friends and members. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Trax said he almost thought I wasn't streaming. Now I just started a little bit later with the part of the setup that I do on the actual OBS studio software that I use. I just started that part later. I've been setting the stream up for like 2 hours. Usually what I do is I'll sit there and I'll watch Waza, you know, I'll interact with his stream and then I'll do stuff from my stream at the same time. Then I was like, oh shit, I got like 20 minutes to set everything up. So that's what I did, but we're good. But thanks for joining. All right, we got Fox the Bomb, another good friend, moderator, and member. Thanks for joining, buddy. And we got Candyman who says, should max out my 5-star Cyclonus this weekend. Man, like, look, I was like, even after the long way to getting them out, we still talk about Cyclonus each week. I love to hear it. But thanks for joining. All right, we have a bunch of comments about you guys trying to help me out with my sound. I appreciate that. For whatever reason, it's just not going as loud as it was before. So I got to figure that out, hopefully this week. All right, we got Michael Cooper, another homie of mine. Thanks for joining, Michael Cooper. We got Chris Harmon, one of my first members and one of my moderators. Thanks for joining, homie. And let's see. Candyman says Megatronus is good for chewing up OP bot attacks, but he doesn't last long. Yeah, and that's one of the things I was talking about last week. It's like, especially with that airdrop shit, which I don't think it should be doing, but you know, ain't nobody did anything to fix it yet. So, but yeah, outpost pops, cool. Um, you know, it doesn't last an outrageous amount of time. We'll talk about what it will be doing with the maxed out Requiem Blaster here in a bit, and see if it moves the needle. Spoiler, for me, it doesn't, and there's a specific reason why that I already addressed with the team. So we'll see how they deal with that feedback. But you know, we'll see. Yeah, CF kind of said something along the same lines. It's really hard to judge. As he and I discussed earlier this week, uh, we in playtest really didn't get a good chance to test most scenarios, and that's true. And I felt like, and I said this when we were having that conversation with the team. CF honestly had one of the most balanced takes that I've seen about this thing, probably in the entire game, because. Um, you know, it comes down to we didn't get to test it. I didn't necessarily agree that we didn't have time to. I think that when you look at something and you're testing something, you start testing it from an in-game standpoint. And so that means, what does this look like when I'm maxed out or close to maxed out? When does this start becoming good to me? You know, myself and other content creators, we're showing this thing and it's at level 23, it's at level 30, like, you know, it's at all these different levels where, bro, no content's good, really. I mean, I ain't gonna say no, there are some minor exceptions, but typically content's not good at level 20, level 30s. You know, it's good in the you know, after the 60s, you know, even maxed out. So do I suspect that this is going to be the case for Megatronus Prime? At the top level, no, probably not. But at the end of the day, man, it's 12 more primes that I gotta go run too. But I think your rollout probably could have been a lot stronger than this one was. So we'll see. All right, Trax says they won't give these comics away. They got toys last year, and I remember you telling me this story, but you won one, and they instead asked if they could give you compensation in game. Oh man, yeah, that's crazy. Yes, see, if the game is indeed ending. Inside joke, guys, the game's not ending. I dropped my first S bomb of the day. Hey, Blade 19 joined the chat. Good friend of mine. Thanks for joining, buddy. Member of mine as well. Um, hey, you found the right place to relax after work, man. And say come down here, hang out in the Deceptor Lab with us. Yeah, nah, I hear you. I said, Terra said need to play the game more, not as interested as he once was in TFEW. I mean, honestly, that's the community as a whole right now. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it. Players at the top, in particular, are just like, man, like we're bored. We'll talk about that probably a little bit later on, and then. Players in the middle tiers. What I mean, there hasn't been a lot of change. For a lot of stuff. And I do understand. I think a lot of times people will think that I'm defending the company, and it's not that. I just like to keep fair and balanced takes for stuff. And now we're just at the point where, me personally, it's still gonna be minor stuff that I gonna need to collect on and try to stockpile. But I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna keep it a band with you. I like getting. I like getting to a point where I'm comfortable, not for extended periods of time, but I like getting to a point where it's like, hey man, I'm not like right now. I'm not chasing anything. Like yesterday, I went in and because I haven't been spending any 5-star shards, I took um I took Dreadwing up to major, and I like stuff like that because I'm probably going to use Dreadwing for I'm probably going to use him for a while because I like what he does. Um, as opposed to feeling forced to have to chase some bot so that I can stay competitive. That's one of the things I liked about the balance patch. The balance patch took bots that I already had and made them very competitive. And so, you know, not to not to be mean, but when I don't have to chase stuff and there's other people that can chase a bunch of stuff to keep the economy going, and I can just look down on you and be like, man, that's tough. I kind of like that feeling. Just just gonna be honest with you. All right, let's see. Blade 19 says, well, they're not going to fix that. And I think he's talking about the airdrop for at least a year. So enjoy dropping the primes wherever you want to. Yeah, CF, man, you can post. Go ahead. All right, so Chris Harmon says he sucks. He's like, Megatronus doesn't suck anything up. Just like Waza said, the XP requirement, it should have way higher health. And he's a prime, and his fire damage should do more damage. Would have let down from the lore. Now, and I do agree when you do an initial rollout for something like this, and it's something that is really really relevant in the lore like that, I think you are kind of obligated to, make it strong. Here's the problem: we got a bunch of people right now that have been saying that the game is, way too easy, and to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to argue otherwise. For those that have been playing it for a really long time, it is kind of easy right now. So how do you in turn make powerful content, like really like to the level that we would appreciate Megatronus Prime? If we made it to that level right now, um, it would only make the problem for the people that saying the game easier or that the game is easier right now. It would only make that problem worse. And it's actually important because that's going to be something that I come back to here in a few moments. So let's hold that thought for a second. All right, let's see. All right, so AT has joined us as well. Thank you for joining AT. And that's a good point. He said, I got all the 5-star bots and the combats. And so, I mean, I get it. You know, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, hey, man, well, what am I supposed to be doing now if I have all of this stuff? But I there was a point in time when I played the game. I did like every single event. I tried to complete every single event and get everything that I could from every single event until it became impractical, because like having a 50K this week after having a large event last week, 100K last week. I'm just like, nah, man, I'm not. First off, I'm still unemployed, so I'm not gonna be spending money like that anyway. I do got sources of income, but I said I don't have a job to just keep giving money into the game. If I did, I still probably wouldn't, but week after week. But to me, that's the reward of having played the game that hard for that long. But I don't know, man. Like for me, if I get new content, I'll probably spend. If I get new content in a saga, I'll probably use that entire saga leveling it up. The first few weeks, I'll spend that passively, and then I'll probably complete it around endurance time. And so there's that. But if you get to the point where you've been sitting around too long, longer than 8 weeks, it does get boring. And so I do understand. Yeah, sitting on 45K combat shows. Yeah, I've done that once, and it was because I was hunting something in particular, and then you know I used all that stuff. I don't think it was quite 45. I think I got to about 30, 32 ish. But anyway, a lot of that stuff is stuff we'll come back to. All right, we got my good friend, fellow playtester, and member Dread81. Thanks for joining, Dread. And I think that I got everyone. If I did not, just shoot a tag in the chat. All right, so I do want to talk about Mega. I'm going to go to the larger screen for a second. And I don't want to beat the dead horse because we already talked about Megatronus Prime a lot over the last 2 weeks. But what I do want to talk about is if the Requiem Blaster. So I'm going to go ahead and equip it. And as I equip it, you can actually read the tooltip. I'll leave it there for a second because it'll be larger that way. And already I see a question, a good question. RG says, what will happen if you miss the future Prime event? Will there be a way to get missed Primes, maybe Prime shards? So they haven't said that yet. I did make the prediction, but here's the caveat. I made the prediction that it makes natural sense to eventually put this stuff in the Prime Shard store, right? Because they're primes. We already got Prime Shards. We already complain about not having anything to do with Prime Shards, which is a valid complaint if you're a player that's been playing this game for a while. Um, but they haven't explicitly said that yet. And it's one of those areas where I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to continue to poke the bear about it because it should happen. But here's the thing: when you miss stuff or when you're free to play, dude, like sometimes that's a long ass wait. I'm just gonna be transparent with you. So until they say otherwise, I'm just gonna assume it to be a long ass wait. Not even gonna hold you. But you know, if I had to take a guess, I don't think they're gonna do that for like another year. I hope I'm wrong because it's players that's gonna want this stuff. So I hope I'm wrong. And at the end of the day, the prime itself they get for free. So it'll just be the ranks. It really just depends though. I think when they get to the point when they're ready to release the last 5 ranks, they'll probably they'll probably do something so the people who didn't get to do the other Prime events can try to catch up. And so hopefully that's not a year. Hopefully, so best case I would think about 6 months. Worst case I would think about a year, but that's just me talking. Dread Dread 81 says it's okay to beat the dead horse depending on the topic. Yeah, it depends on what it is. I was like, look, if I was, I said, I know how you get down. If I was in there arguing with the team, then you'd be like, yeah, beating the dead horse is fine. Candyman kind of made a point that I said, and I love this concept that you're saying in there, Candy. It says combat sharks should be able to cash in from binary bonds. That would be cool. I think you should be able to take anything as long as it's of the similar, like like in this case, combats, right? If you could go, and we actually got a playtester friend of mine suggested having a converter that you could use for stuff like that, and he said it several times. Will it happen? Probably not, because some people have such large stacks of this stuff that they probably just do a binary bond. But it takes you a long time to get this stuff anyway. Why not? You know, it'll be something for people to do with this stuff who have just been holding on to it for a long time. I don't have a problem with it because at the end of the day, you did earn it. So why not? Chris says, yeah, so Chris is a collector. He says he spend money. I want content that's overpowered. I'm not buying this weak ass content. I mean, and I get it. And you know, you and I have had that conversation a bunch of times before. The thing is, I don't necessarily want the content overpowered. I want us to be able to get through the content faster when we go spend money on it. For me, because like this is the only game that I play, and it's not to say that other games don't do this, but this is the only game that I play where you spend the money and you still got to do all the fucking work. So for me, that's the bigger problem. Look, but to your point though, people are not going to want to buy weaker content, and I'm not going to sit up there and lie and be like, this is what I would consider strong content. It's not, but I also don't know what it's going to look like at 70 or any future plans. I don't know, but if you can't sell this one on the initial rollout, if you can't get people excited about that, how in turn can you get people excited about the other 12? And that's the problem that I'm struggling with here. You know, it did give us a bunch of stuff we wanted though. Uh we wanted a knife bot in the shuttle. This is a knife bot in the shuttle. We said we wanted something that didn't have cooldowns. I mean, it doesn't have cooldowns, but um you know, the team does express interest in wanting to change it. I think they got to let us get there first. And you know what? It's already out now. Um, most of the community is just like it sucks, but I think we got to give it a little bit more time. I think that if we get to the end of the saga and we still saying that this thing is a bag of butt, then possibly we look at it different. So anyway, back to the artifact, the Requiem Blaster. So it's been on the screen for a while. This is what it does. I already talked about what it did last stream, but I wanted to, and I got a graphic that I want to show that I put on PowerPoint, and that's not it. So let me go find the one that is it. And I'll show you. I'll talk to you a little bit about what the different levels do. And I can't see you guys, so let me first get rid of my presenter view. All right, I need to get rid of that. And that's not the one I wanted. And y'all can see all of the other stuff that I'm doing later on. Huh, that's weird. All right, there we go. That's the actual show. All right, so it breaks down into different levels. So uh, originally, I can't remember how many levels I had showed before. I know somebody will probably correct me on it, and I probably need to make this a little bit wider. There we go. All right, so the first 5 levels, 1 through 5, right? Each 5 levels, so it's 20 levels total, and each of them is going to do something a little bit different. So levels 1 through 5, there's going to be a duration increase, and so it's going to extend the total active time of the Requiem Blaster ability by 1 second. So your max additional duration is going to be plus 5 seconds. So you're talking about a total of 11 seconds by the time you get done with everything. Um, in addition to, so it's starting off at 6, and each level that you gain, you're going to have a mode duration increase. Now the thing is, and I don't know how they're going to distribute this yet. As you guys saw 2 weeks ago, there is Cybertronian alloy. There's going to be yet another currency that you got to use to get this thing. So I imagine it's probably going to be in events. They'll probably sell some of it as well in bundles. Not 100% on that yet. Some of you other guys that in playtest with me that might have caught that information, feel free to add it to the chat. But that's the first 5 levels for you, right? And I actually wanted to pull up the chat. Let me pull up the chat real quick because I know, and I'm probably not going to have answers to the questions right now, but I do want to be able to look at all this stuff. All right, so when you go through level 6 through 10, it's going to add in your fire spread explosion. Um, Destroyed targets will explode. You're going to spread fire for 6 seconds, and then for each level that you gain, it's going to add an additional zero point 0.8 seconds fire duration per level. So max duration would wind up being plus 4 seconds, which in total would be 10. So overall, I mean, like, and I still can go add this to my feedback in Discord for the test server, but fuck, man, we already got stuff that does over 10 seconds of fire damage, bro. Like, and this is the stuff that you guys are talking about in the chat about content not being powerful, especially a prime, and especially something we're going to have to work for. Like right now, this is where we're at. This is not final, but and I get it. It's only level 6 through 10, but I mean, 10 seconds to something that's already not that strong. Whatever, man. All right, I'm just gonna move past it because when I actually read through that, like I had played it on the test account, but I don't know. Anyway, levels 11 through 15 is gonna be a damage boost, so it'll be plus 4 DPS, plus 4% DPS multiplier per level. Multiplies total shot power, the max multiplier that you can get, because each one of these, every time you go up a level, it's going to give you whatever that percentage is or whatever that duration bonus is. So for 5 levels of that, max multiplier is going to be plus 20%. And then the, oops, I didn't want to go to that yet. So let me go back. My apologies. All right, so then levels 16 through 20, bounce shot bounces to one more target. Now, this is another thing. Like, this is your top level, and we've already got stuff that bounces, and we got it stuff that bounces a little bit more than that. So that's gonna probably be my second complaint on this thing. Um, so the bounce is gonna be 40% of the original damage. Now you did get your damage boost before that, but I don't know, man. Plus 10 damage per level, so your max bounce damage. And the max bounce damage is that's okay. Now we're getting closer. 90% per bounce. All right, so at this point, let's just try this shit because like. But I just did want you to get the breakdown. I do need to take screenshots of all these graphics and get them onto my Discord server. Um, but yeah, that's how that breaks down. And yeah, so we'll go back into the game screen, and I need to blow it back up because I had to take it down to look at the so I can still see the chat. All right, so let's see. As a matter of fact, before I even do that, let's see what the chat is saying. All right, well, Shock Bomb says. Shock Bomb says they don't want to do things he might actually enjoy the game. Dread 18 says dead horse topic. God Neptune. Now that's a dead horse topic because for me, only for me because I used when they made the holograms stronger. I was like, are you sure? And I know half of us play. No, half of us gonna play Transformers event, Earth events or whatever it is. I always call it. Like for me, that's like when they made the holograms better, I was good because that's what I use God Neptune for. Um, I mean, use them for a little bit of eventing and stuff like that. I mean, I was using them exclusively for events, but um, I like the hologram thing. But you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, I knew they were gonna make some changes to them. I think they went a little bit too far the first time, but I don't know if they can get it straight or not. Now at this point, they might not look at it again until December. I'm not gonna say it's right, but he does what I need him to do for my purpose, but I definitely understand if that's not what he's doing. Yeah, AT agreed with me about using 5-star shards for rank ups. I like getting to that point for real, and it helps that the last batch wasn't that good. So, all right, so Trax and Blade 19 both damn near at the same time said that the blaster is BS and trash, and that we have combats better than that. Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, that's pretty close along the lines of what Waza was saying too. Yeah, Chris is saying that they should be more powerful than bots. Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder if it's just if it. I think it is. I think it's just a contract thing that they had to come up with this now because like this probably wasn't the time. This is some shit that should have came out with HQ19. Like we should have got up there, started playing HQ19, started struggling and shit, and then they just dropped this one on us and say, "Hey, here's your answer," and that would have been lit. Right now, I don't think we even in position to make this thing strong because of the lack of difficulty of the game right now. Hello. Now I said technical difficulties. What did I freeze up or something? But anyway, I see S. Clohasi joined the chat. Thanks for joining, buddy. Yeah, he says I just miss Mayhem events actually being faster because you could run Ruination and got Neptune and Prime Zones and have like a 95% to 100% win rate. Yeah, nah, I mean, and it was easier. I'm not gonna definitely not gonna take that away. You know, I also noticed a pattern, and I might be tripping, but I look at it every event that I play, and it seems, for me at least, I've been having a good win rate until I get to a really good prize. Like if it's, sometimes they're scattered throughout, like throughout the event. But if I start to get to something that's really being kept away from us, say I'm just about to get a new rank, those battles always get harder for me right before I go get the good prizes. So I don't know if it's something in the coding or if it's just something that just happens to behave that way every single time I play it, but that's what's been happening to me. Let's see. Yeah, Twilight Tears says could be a lot better to be honest. Blade 19 says enjoy the game that ship has sailed away a long time ago. Yeah, yeah, Ian Adamson said, well, actually, a Candyman says Hasbro are releasing the new deluxe wheelie figure, maybe coming to the game soon. Bro, like, at this point, I think they're going to try to do at least one more Prime, so I doubt it. But, who knows? But yeah, Ian Adamson, well, first off, thanks for joining. Yeah, more currencies, man. Anytime they add two things to this game, I get a little bit upset. When they add a new game mode, even though with the caveat, the next one that I'm going to tell you about, I'm probably going to be excited about because they are looking at entering the game mode that I'm going to talk about here in a moment. But and you probably already got a sneak peek, but but yeah, um, if they add a game mode and if they add currencies, then I'm like, dog, just it dilutes the currencies you already got. So you have to go chase more stuff to go make more stuff happen, and I just be like, bro, this could have been easy. This could have been a go collect prime shards thing instead of collecting now essentially three more currencies because you got Universal Spark that we hadn't actually seen much of in the game yet. You know, you got the Megatronus Spark, and then in addition to that, you're gonna have this Cybertronian alloy. So this content that most of us don't fucking like wind up having wind up having three currencies. That's crazy. That's crazy. And this is why I say I'm real selective about what I do complain about because, like with certain stuff, like this is a pretty big deal to me. So, but anyway, so I already spoiled the surprise earlier by going to the next slide. So I'm gonna go ahead and show what was discussed in regards to the new game mode that may come. It's just a thought right now, but the new concept. Ooh, I cut that off badly, so I need to actually first off get it to where you guys can see it. So let me do that. And that is not right. So let's see. And let's see. All right. So there has been talk in the game about possibly doing solo wars. And so the other day, for those of you who aren't in that chat, the other day in Unicron, um, Dale came in and he was like, "Hey, you know," it was a pretty long message because for me, I had to take like three screenshots of it, so I condensed it down into the key points and put it on this slide. So I wanted to talk about that because I think it could be interesting, but I do have a concern, and I'll talk about that concern in a moment as well. All right, so let's talk about when. So first off, they're saying that I don't know what's going on here. So first off, they're saying I actually think I want. Let me go back for a second, because I'm on the wrong screen. All right, so the first thing is when are they supposed to happen? If they do this, now this is something that they're just talking about right now, and I want to be really explicit because this doesn't mean that it's coming, but this is what was discussed. And so it would be Tuesdays through Thursdays, and you can get up to 30 ranked wins that would count towards your weekly progress. So anything after that, you get 70% less points to limit the burnout. They don't want everybody just grinding through that mode. So um, so yeah, you get up to 30 ranked battles that actually count, 100% towards your progress. Um, and then you would have a daily bonus for the first win of each active day, and that'll give you plus 50% points, and it doesn't count towards your 30 for the weekly progress. Berserk said. Berserk said, anytime we see them say something about burnout, it's fake. I'm gonna, actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna come back to that, but I'm gonna come back to something similar on that same topic here in a bit. All right, so for scoring and progression, they said if you win, you would gain points. If you lose, you would lose points. Uh, it's going to use fuel cells, so it wouldn't be any new currency, and you would have 90-day seasons of this stuff. The season reset would drop you one division max, and you have 5 placement matches at the start of each season. You have your ranked leagues, so you have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, Cybertron, Prime League, and Unicron. Unicron League is supposed to be absolutely insane, and it would be the top 200 players. Now, logically, for me, the part of this that makes sense is that ooh, I did not mean to cut that off. I just keep doing, I just keep doing all kinds of shit. But the part of me that makes sense is, and it's starting to change slightly, but when I look at the top of the game right now, there's only a handful of teams that are really competing with each other at the top. And so G1 has 2 alliances that compete at the top. Um, I, and I think like Prime and Armada just had some merging and stuff. So Prime is still up there, Horde, and it's a couple of them that like you have to play them competitively. Scorched still has like one team that is like, hey man, they're like a half a tier under, but you can't like not take them seriously either, or they'll beat you. Stuff like that. There's one new alliance. It came from a bunch of guys who actually left Horde and built an alliance that's pretty strong. GC1. So you're talking about maybe like 7 teams in total that could actually compete with each other realistically in Unicron. And so if you look at it, top 200 ranked players would be the ones that could be in the Unicron League. It makes sense because there's only 5 truly like just knockdown, drag out teams that might push up to 11.5k to 12k. So I think it's targeted for those folks. And what I think will help is like, we're complaining about, and I said we were going to come back to it, about the game being too easy for top players. So maybe it'll be a mode without disrupting the rest of the game, because if you make it too hard for everybody, then people not going to want to play. People already don't do wars as is. When I've been playing the game for about 7.5 years. When I first got into the game, wars were important because you needed to get the constant spark and to try to make your teams better. And now the prizes, I mean, to put it in context, with the exception of the Z Energon that you get at the higher levels of war, you'd be better off fucking using your fuel cells and fighting a battle in game. Farming. So I don't know, man. Like I get what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is say, the top players are always complaining that it's too easy, and you need something to scratch that itch, that competitive itch. All right, well, go off and go do it like you do everything else in the game, and do it individually, like we do in the events, and like we're starting to do with everything. Go off and go do it on your own, and stop disrupting the rest of the game. So but to some of the points, and I already saw some comments in the chat saying, okay, so it's another thing to grind. Well, they saying that they don't want it to be something to grind, but this is the problem that I see. I think people are going to try to rush out the gate every time just so they can maintain their status. And they said, well, people are going to lose some of these battles. So, when Dale responded to me about it, and I was like, yeah, that's true. But you're gonna have some people that are gonna do all 30 battles in the first hour, and then they're still gonna have that itch. I guarantee it. So that's my actual concern. But anyway, what they want feedback on the other day is 30 wins the right number, and is losing 70%, or I take that back. There's a 70% reduction in in the points that you earn after the 30, and they also looking to see what kind of effects they could use for Unicron, and for the rewards and stuff. So that's what they're kind of looking at. Um, I do like the concept. It absolutely, especially right now with everything that we've had going on this year, it has to be executed correctly the first time. Um, and if they can pull that off, great. Absolutely. I'm all for it. It Everything has to go flawless for this, because it's going to be a huge thing that could possibly uh, potentially save wars in this game, in my opinion, because right now top teams are matching with each other, uh, when they're ready to. They, some occasionally will run into each other, but it's kind of hard to occasionally run into somebody, and it's only 7 of the motherfuckers, man. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, with as many alliances as we got in the game. So, um, but it'll be an opportunity where top players can just kind of scratch that competitive itch whenever they feel like it. So, um, I'm gonna read some comments. I'm gonna read some comments because it's been a lot of them since I've been up here rambling. All right, so CF Tactics, CF says the idea is similar to that of arena mode from the China server. Yeah, I mean, and I've seen like people talking about it. Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, hopefully they are learning some stuff from that so that they can actually try to execute it well. All right, Michael Cooper says got 4 deluxe Insecticons out now. I reckon we'll get some more scouts next year with the auto bot mini bots. Yeah, that could be a thing. Blade 19 says basically Titans all over again. And in what regard? Yeah, so I read Berserk's comment earlier. Yeah, Trax was saying it'll be something new, then just become something else to grind. And I can't ask too many questions about answer too many questions, Blade. Blade 19 was asking if will there be cooldowns in Solar Wars. Can't really answer that. I'm gonna say it's using. It says it's using fuel cells, so mm, yeah, you probably will. Um, but right now it's just a concept. It's not even. It's not even a real thing that's definitely come into the game yet. So, um, but I would bank on there still being cooldowns because, like I said, if you are rushing towards something by default, I'll tell you this: when I said people are just going to coin through it early, they didn't tell me I was wrong. They said that you might lose. So, um, that's my educated guess way of saying that. Yeah, it's probably going to be like that. Shotbomb28 says if they cared about burnout, they do Monday through Wednesday and raids Wednesdays through Friday. I mean, they realistically they could. I guess, and a lot of this stuff depends on who they get feedback from. Because if you go ask, I ain't even gonna say top players. If you go ask players that's just been in the game for a while, I mean, most of the guys are getting raids done in like less than an hour. I ain't gonna say less than 5 hours. But then, if you got guys at certain levels and stuff like that in the lower and middle tiers, it might take them a little bit of effort to go do that. So Raise has been one of those things that kind of got forgotten about. I always, even though people don't like these, so I stopped bringing it up. I kind of like when we had raid events every now and again, not all the time, just every now and again to switch pace. But all right, so Berserk says not to say this mode can't be fun, but question them when they lie about burnout. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the thing is, it's like for me personally, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but this is where my train of thought goes when I have that discussion. I'm not going to not willing to catastrophize some stuff that they hadn't done yet. I think when they say, hey, we're trying to set the number at this, and here's the problem because somebody's going to say, well, why can we only do 30? I want to do this all day, every day, because, most of the time I'm not in a hard war. So it depends on which voices they actually listening to uh, because, those are typically the most engaged voices on Discord, and that's where a lot of our problems come from. And for the stuff we do complain about, to be honest with you, sometimes, not all the time, but a lot of times it's dumb shit. And like then when big stuff like this happens, it slips through the cracks. So um, that's my measured approach of saying I want to see more, and then I'm going to be very critical when we see more stuff like this. You don't always hear, unless I'm on stream, you don't always hear from me about a lot of stuff. But because I'm so vested in war and it's the one thing that's keeping me in the game heavily, you would definitely hear a lot from me about this. Believe that. And yes, to your other point, war rewards do need a big revamp. And so I don't know what it's going to be in this mode. They're asking us what we want to see in there in this mode. I mean, like, look, man, if you fighting Unicron wars, because I fought in Unicron and it is very, very tough. So if you fighting in Unicron wars and you going through all that frustration to try to stay in the top 200, and you go in there from time to time and you get your booty cheeks clapped, yeah, I think the reward should be decent. I mean, I think you should start to maybe at the end of the season, like they should be end of the season rewards where you get some of the top stuff in the game, and then I think there should just be rewards that you just get for. And this is just me spitballing ideas, but I think it should be something. It should be something worth a damn. Like you shouldn't be doing this shit for no reason, just to be getting some, just to be getting some, lowly amounts of like alloy and energon and stuff like that. So just all that to say, I'm hopeful. That's Unicron's a lot of work Even if it's just 30 times, Unicron's a lot of work to sit up there and get some bullshit awards. Not gonna hold you. Shockbomb 28 says my wife, his wife, lasting in all my cussing and nah, man, like it's that serious to me. Like I mean, I came from the American military, so I'm a cuss, but like this stuff is really, really for me. That I'm locked in. Probably when I start using that language, because I was like, look, man, we can't mess this up. And so like I hope it does happen. A couple people I know, Twilight Tier said he had put it in a survey a while ago. A couple other people said they put it in a survey a while ago, which I've always agreed. I just wanted to know what it would look like, but I've always wanted to see it. And to be honest with you, if they're talking about it now and they can get it approved, I don't even expect, bro. Like I don't know what the plan would be, but I don't even suspect that we would see something like this until next year, if I'm being transparent. But they didn't say that. But this is just me speculating. Yeah, Berserk says it makes sense like other game genre competitive games have solo and team modes. We still should promote alliance activity above solo though for the social life of the game. 100% agree. And this is why I hate all the emphasis on individual events. And to be honest with you, they have bad reasons why people don't want alliance events. Now, I'll be honest with you. I hate alliance, like 500K events and stuff, and I get their purpose. Um, it's to make them completable for a lot of other players and stuff like that, and that's cool. I'd rather just like all the smaller events. I'd rather just have individual the majority of the time. Um, for me, it's just taken away from the camaraderie of the game when we just make too many individual events. Um, and for me personally, this is not anybody else's problem but mine. But I came up playing, team sports, you know. So for me, the thought of letting my teammates down is absolutely just an awful feeling for me, man. I can't imagine that my teammates depending on me for something, and I just totally just let them down. So for me, it's motivating. Like endurance, you're gonna see me on my A game during events. Even as much as I hate events, you're gonna see me on my A game during an event, right? And we're missing that because people don't want to organize. I was like, look, we got to the point now. Like I don't mind when we were just doing week 4 combat event and week 8 endurance. That means once every 2 months you have to organize a large event. I'm like, to me, bro, that's 6 times a year. Get over it or don't be in leadership. That's what I did. And I'm not saying anything that I hadn't done myself. When people started irritating the crap out of me about events, when I was managing, I did a lot of work. I had all kinds of automated papers and stuff just to auto stack, like who's going to complete the event early and who's going to complete the event late so people didn't get mad and scoreboard watch and harass each other and tag each other on Line app or Discord. Like I did all kinds of stuff when I was running events. And I did that to make it better, and it still didn't make it. People still didn't appreciate it, so I moved on from doing it. And I think that's what you got to do when you don't want to, or have a bunch of people that manage the events rotations for you. But I don't think we should change the whole game because 20 people who manage like event movements or something at the top of the food chain don't want to do that work. That's not a good reason. It's a lot more players than that. That's not a good reason, gang. 100%. So I'm gonna hop off that soapbox because I'll get upset. But to your point was we should be doing more team stuff, team oriented stuff, and I 100% agree. Oh boy, let's see. Yeah, Ian Adamson likes raids or something different. Yeah, you know what, and you know It still kind of tripped me out because raids when they were weekly, um, and everybody was complaining about burnout, and they came in there and said, "Let's take away the raids for 1 week. We'll just double up the prizes and do it every 2 weeks." And I'm like, bro, like literally nobody's complaining about raid. I mean, well, I ain't gonna say nobody. There's some lower levels that's probably like, man, this is hard. The majority of the people in the game are not complaining about raid, bro. Just they just ain't. Dang, Shot Bomb 28 hate raids, but does think that they can increase the raid scores needed to finish. Yeah, and the thing is, they have more raid maps than they use. Like we got some older raid maps that they could have used. They just, we just kind of raids just kind of just got there and just kind of stayed the same. And I can prove it to you because the couple of times that they do raid events, they have more they have more zones and for the raid event. So um, they could rotate them. They could do something to make the mode more interesting. I see Big Blade. I say Big Blade 297 joined one of my good friends and moderators. I said sorry for being late. Hey man, look, I get I get most of my ratings anyway from rewatching. CF said I just been cussing a lot. Blade 19 says if you're building up scores, why not let you use them points to buy something like ranks or PPEs? Bring out a separate store just so you can buy stuff with your points. I mean, they could, they could and they should, but look for the level of work that you're doing to compete in Unicron. Like a lot of y'all, a lot of y'all haven't competed in Unicron War. Unicron War be out there feeling like actual war, like like with actual guns, bro. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. Unicron War is like if you say something is about that life, Unicron War is like that, bro. Big Blaze is like, can somebody summarize besides Gus? Nah, man, you gotta go back and watch it, gang. Now we actually we talked about a lot, but we didn't talk about a lot. So we started talking about recently the possibility of having a solo war mode, and then we also talked about the Requiem Blaster and what happens at each level. Um, spoiler, it still looks like trash. I ain't even try. I ain't even play it. I talked about it and I didn't even play it. And the reason why, it's nothing to say. I showed it to you before, but it's just not that good to me, bro. And so here's the problem that I actually have with it, because I've been sitting up here talking. I ain't even played really, but the two topics that I was talking about is something that I was actually pretty passionate about. So here's the problem. So we're supposed to be able to get this thing, and it doesn't show it here, but we'll talk about it again. We're supposed to be able to use this, and I'm just gonna try to collect my points real quick. And this is one of the things that irritates a lot of people. I actually don't care. I like the fact that I can get another bot late in the battle, personally. But a lot of people don't like that you have to actually wait and go get all your points. Yeah, I don't care. I'm cool with that part. So we'll just keep clearing some stuff out. Because I want to show what it is that this is going to be doing at that level. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put Megatronus Prime down. And I'm going to zoom in. So this time it really didn't do too much. Let me make sure I actually got it equipped. Which sucks because you got to sit up there and use all those. you gotta sit up there and use all of that stuff, all the destroy all that stuff. So I'll probably do it a little bit differently this time. Yeah, I didn't equip it, so I'm gonna equip it again. And once again, looking at what it does, you know, you got a novel for a tooltip, but I mean, it's explaining it clearly, so it's cool. But like, so after you enter the battlefield from above, you know, you're gonna go drop in, do that, you know, additional uh, multiplier, that 2 multiplier of in a small area. So for 11 seconds, you're supposed to be shooting a 1.5 multiplier DPS and then a 1.8 DPS fire damage. You know, 1.8 multiplier. And actually, that tooltip is. Oh, the fire damage is over 8 seconds. Okay, cool. So you're going to bounce to an additional target. It's going to do 90% of that. So this is one of those times where it's like you add all of the stuff up there, but you add a bunch of stuff and most of it's not doing anything super powerful. You just keep throwing stuff at it. The play testers have gotten on the team about this many times. It's like, look, have it do 1 or 2 things and have them do them really, really well. But we'll look at it because, you know, the key thing for me is that this got some stuff that it's supposed to be doing for 11 seconds. And I say that because there's 2 things I really want to show off here. And the first is what happens when it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then there's one time, it's not a bug either. It's just this one thing I do that that it just doesn't work, and it should. So all right, so let's do this. Let's clear out some stuff. So we gotta get them. We gotta get them all built up. All right, so now we got some ability points. We're gonna deploy Megatronus. And here's the thing. So he already walks pretty slow. So this time it didn't even do it. Like he's gonna walk around like and find the targets. He's supposed to transform and use this thing. So it could be a bug, but this is what happened when I was looking at it. Because this time if he has to walk to a target, you know, he's just not transforming and actually using that ability. So I did go into my survey, ask for it to be fixed. I'm gonna follow up on it to make sure that that's fixed. But what I'm seeing is that I have to actually use him, and it's gonna be kind of difficult to see because I gotta use him when he's kind of, you know, when he's kind of clustered up with a bunch of other stuff. So he's like right in the thick of battle, and then that's when all of a sudden he starts to use his ability. And if that's the way that it's gonna work, that's not gonna be good enough. If that's the way that it's going to work, that's going to be a problem. And I don't suspect that it is, so I'm not overly worried about it, but it does need to be fixed 100%. So I'm going to try to actually get him, I'm going to try to get Swindle closer to some targets so that it'll in turn get Megatronus Prime closer to some targets. Yeah, and he's still just out there walking. You can see that he's got a damage increase, but he didn't. So I'm gonna have to pre-record it next time because it's honestly it's just flat out not doing it. But so that 11 seconds ends up kind of wasted in certain cases, and that's not gonna work. Track says, "What do you mean something works but it doesn't? Not in this game, sir. Never." Drax said you can tell Freezius Max is from the streets when he gets on a roll. Nah, it's like, I mean, I came up the way that I came up, but yeah, nah, yeah, nah, man. Like sometimes, sometimes it's fun to get ratchet. CF says I never understood the issue with organizing events when there was event schedules, but when we have an auto sign up system on our server, yeah, that's cool. And y'all, you guys are real efficient at any kind of planning and stuff in the game, and if a lot of people took followed suit, it would be easy. Um, I've in the past I've done stuff where it was real easy to sign up with stuff. Even when I'm in leadership now, I'm smart enough to know not to be a part of that life no more. Because, well, I probably could do it in Horde because we don't do a bunch of complaining about events. It's not too much. There've been times when we um have, but it's not. It's usually really mild. Blade 19 says each saga, the new bot should be individual, and the combat bot should be alliance. I can't agree with that. Personally, I like the way that they have it. I like the combat bots, and here's the reason why. Because when I look at it, at least in my experience as a player, I'm in one saga. I'm probably going to wind up getting enough combat shards to go get um to go make a pull from a batch. And because of the way that combat bots are released, like when a new one comes out, the next one just pops into the batch. Um, you honestly don't have to rush ahead to get combat bots. Now, if it's something that's really, really, really good, I will, but otherwise, I won't. So for bots, um, with bots, I prefer that they be an alliance event. So because you know, there's different situations. There can be guys that want to help each other out. One guy might only be able to get 50K that weekend because he's gonna miss a whole weekend, and another guy says, "Well, I'm doing 200. I can get you know 37 and a half for you." And stuff like that. So I prefer that with bots. I think bots overall have more value because depending on what it is, there's a few exceptions, but overall, bots are going to have the better value. Let people work on that as a team. Now, what a lot of people do is they don't want to have to wait. You just that compulsion that a lot of people have. I had to wait on somebody else. I don't care, man. Like if you get, as long as I get my content when Sunday comes, Sunday night, Monday morning when my time comes, we good. For me, when I start looking at, bro, like especially right now because it's NFL season, what you'll probably see me do is finish the event on Friday, or these days it's not Friday. Usually it's midday Saturday, and I won't even turn the game on again unless somebody tell me we get a hard war. I won't turn the game on again, so that way I don't even be tempted to scoreboard watch. Not that I'm going to complain about it anyway. We get it if we get it, or when we get it, not if, because we always get our stuff. Track says players are selfish. They're so scared that they won't get something. The same guy that gets 200K is worried about why a guy only does 88K or even 60K. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. You know, um, yeah, that's the main problem. Let's see. Resert said a good point about them fixing things no one was complaining about, like the spider mines are now unhackable. Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't me personally, I don't think that they should have been hackable. But like, let's be honest, it's been in the game like that for a while. Like, I don't see a reason to change it. But um, I didn't read all the stuff myself about what was said about that particular topic. A lot of people talk to me about it, and I disagree with the way that the response came out about that. Based off of what I heard only. When I go back and look at it, I can say definitively, but based off of what I heard, um, I would disagree with that response that they had. Yeah. Autobot Phil joined. Thanks for joining, buddy. And says if it wasn't for the community aspect, or if it weren't for the community aspect, I would have left this game behind years ago. They shouldn't stray from that for sure. 100% agreed. The tracks agree with me about Unicron War. Yeah, I went back and put the equip the blaster. It's just not. I just can't get it to work. What I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to make another video because the thing is, it only seems to work when I'm in a crowded area, and because you got to destroy all this stuff to use it, that's kind of tough. So I'll probably have to do some records on my own because I was doing it earlier on my phone. It's not as strong as it sounds. It's just not. The airdrop stuff I did last week, I ain't doing that again. Hey, Cat Kicker 06 joint, thanks for joining. And it's pretty happy with the new Mega. All right, cool, cool, cool. And just pulled 5-star Nova Prime. First pull. Okay, nice, congrats. Yeah, he's pretty good. Um, for me, they changed his targeting a little bit. They did change his targeting system because what used to happen, I actually can show it real quick. And it's one of the things because it when they changed that a little bit after the patch, like I still use them from time to time, but it kind of turned me off a little bit because what ended up happening is I used to be able to just drop his ability anywhere, and then the holograms would just come out from anywhere. And now what you'll see, if you pay attention to where I actually try to go use his ability, so I'm gonna try to use it out here in the open area. What'll happen is it'll move. Now it can be helpful, like in this case, it moved forward. But if it's a little bit more crowded of an area, then what it'll do is it'll attach to something closer. And with a lot of the bases being split level, like when I used it out here in this area next to the Spider-Man. It jumped to the Spider-Man. It's good in that case, but it's bad if there's a lot of buildings or defenses around. So it's definitely worth using. You just have to be really judicious about how you use it now, opposed to how it was when it first came out. So, but all right, man, I am already missing part of the football game, so I am going to see you guys next week, and still be streaming next week. Um, I'll try to do another video about the Requiem Blaster as we make changes in playtest. So be on the lookout for that and be on the lookout for next week's stream. I'll see you there and I'll see you on the battlefield. Freezius out.